So I'm going to introduce, how it's going to work is I'm going to introduce the panel. Each person's going to say something brilliant and witty. And then I've got questions that we've been collecting on the Facebook page and from other people that we're going to be asking. So I'm going to start off all the way at the far end with Steve Swenson. And here, wait, let me get my notes. Because besides being an awesome, very easygoing guy, Steve Swenson works at HSN. He's a producer, arranger, composer, musician. He's the managing producer of audio and music at HSN. Plus, he does audio for the Rays. Plus, he's a very easygoing guy. Steve Swenson, why are you here today? What is important today to you?
I think it's important to understand that you can be, what I got from being asked to do this, I think it's important to understand that you can be creative and you can have a career here, right, in Pinellas County or Harrisburg County. And I think that's something that sometimes gets overlooked because, in the past, maybe there was, as was referred to earlier, there might have been a little bit more of a stigma that you had to, move out. You need to go out to LA. You need to go out to New York. And I think the fact that I think it was 44% he said that as far as the growing people wanting to come here, people wanting to be creative, you can do that. It really just you have to focus on your craft. You have to be relentless. You have to have a lot of drive. And there are opportunities. I think you just have to be willing to push to get them. You have to be able to network and connect with people, and I think that's something that's really important. And hopefully, out of this group and other events that stem from this group, hopefully it makes it easier for everyone to join together, to network, and maybe do even more things.
Awesome, thank you so much. Sitting next to Steve is Christina Rank-Carter. She is a visual artist with lovely work. She's also the director of adult education at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center. She's a curator. She's worked in pretty much every single facet of galleries and museums, and is, as I said, an artist. And right now, she's just setting up lots of classes and workshops at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center. And what brings you here, my friend Christine?
I was deeply honored to be asked, and especially since I'm all the way in the north end of the county now, and I used to work here in St. Pete. But to me, it's really important to give back to the community who gave so much to me. I'm a second-generation Pinellas County artist. My parents, I grew up sort of on the road with my parents doing the outdoor art shows, and they just kind of assumed that I would follow their path, and I went away to art school in Maryland and decided to come back and invest in this community. And now I kind of work on both sides of the coin, where I'm also an artist and I do show my work and sell my work, but I also am able to give artists opportunity to not only make money as instructors, but to sort of increase their own depth of knowledge as they study at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, and try to keep my hands as involved as I can in every aspect of the community. So I'm excited about it too, and it's just getting going.
Thank you so much. Sitting next to Christine is Craig Cobb. Craig Cobb is a writer. He does broadcast, radio broadcast, television broadcast. He does a podcast called Everyday Ethics. He does print journalism. He's been part of the PolitiFact team with the Times, and he's never met a guitar that he could resist. He's also my boss, to be really nice to him, at WMNF Community Radio 88.5 FM. I don't know if, who here is familiar with WMNF, but it is the greatest little radio station in the nation. If you're not, Craig Cobb.
Guitar pick, right here. Never without one. I'm here because I love that working artist title that was put there in the scratched out starving thing, and hope to redefine or help you redefine or open up about what it is to be an artist. I did probably 10,000 interviews, wrote millions and millions of words before I would call myself a writer, and I kick myself for it now, looking back. Just remember this real quick, my career path. I was a coffee house guitar player and singer, then I fronted a hard rock band in the early 70s while I was majoring in American history, minoring in journalism, and headed for law school. My artistic decision was to become a radio reporter at a progressive rock station. Okay? And that's where I learned to write. That's where I learned to write tight. It's where I learned to talk. It's where I learned to perform. And I was surrounded all that time by all the music that I loved and interviewed all the stars and artists that I loved. So, and that progressed on to all kinds of other things. So my thing about being a working artist is to open your mind about how you can apply your artistic and creative side and have a full belly.
Thank you, Craig. Sitting next to Craig is Leslie Curran. Leslie Curran is not just the owner of Articles, a gallery on Central Avenue, just opened a second gallery, and not just owner of a framing business, and for 30 years, am I making that number up? 30? About, okay. But she has been a city council member. She is one of the drivers of downtown redevelopment. There's so much that would not happen in St. Pete if it wasn't for Leslie. I know very specifically that the 600 block is alive and thriving because of actions that Leslie took and got other people to take. She was one of the founders of First Night and just all sorts of wonderful things here in St. Pete. Leslie, you're in St. Pete. How come St. Pete is your artistic and your home, your artistic home and your real home?
First of all, I'm really honored to be sitting here with the panelists that are here. You know, I think everyone up here has so much to offer this entire community, and when we all come together, it's great. I was actually born and raised in St. Petersburg, as my father was. My parents, a civil engineer and a nurse. The only artistic feedback I really got from anyone was my mother, who was a big art lover, but my uncle too was an artist. His name was Graham Ingalls, and he did a lot in EC comics, which unfortunately I didn't know about until a few years before he passed, because he was embarrassed about that when he really ended his career as a fine arts artist and instructor. So even at a young age, when I was 23, I took all the money I had saved up and decided that what I thought I needed to do was picture frame. So I went to someone that had a custom frame shop, asked him to write down everything I would need, went out and bought all the equipment, and bought a book, How to Custom Picture Frame, and taught myself, I thought. After that, I did go to work for a master picture framer in St. Petersburg, fortunately, and that was really back in the 80s. And once I got into it, it kind of stuck, and I knew that's the direction I wanted to take. And over the years, different things happened. I wound up 16 years on city council and was on for 8 years, off for 8 years. So during that whole time, custom framing was involved in one way or the other. And then I finally decided that, you know, I need to quit working for other people and just do it for myself. So I opened my own gallery frame shop about 11 years ago, and just last month decided to open another storefront that's strictly gallery space. So it's been quite a road. It's been a lot of fun, and as I've seen the growth in St. Petersburg, which is just phenomenal. There was a day when I went to college that you went and I would see my older sister and all her friends go to college, and they never came back because there was really nothing in St. Petersburg for them to use their talents on. Now it's a different story, and I think that's especially true in the arts. We just need to continue to move in that direction. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And sitting next to Leslie is Tom Morris. Tom and his brother started Morris Sound Recording in the 80s, early 80s?
1981.
1981, that's early 80s. And has worked with a range of bands, musicians, and clients. Basically, if you've had your radio on, you've heard someone that Tom has probably produced. And he also teaches at St. Pete College in his quote-unquote spare time, of which I believe he has like one of those Harry Potter things that you keep turning and gives you an extra hour in the day, because I don't think he really has spare time. Tom?
I got started in this part of the music business because I was in school as a chemical engineer, and I earned my way through college partly by playing in bands at bars and fraternity houses and that sort of thing. And then I got a chance to go in the studio and record some songs that my brother and I had written, and I fell in love with that process. That was a lot more fun than playing for a bunch of drunks, for me personally. So I decided to get my degree and go to work for DuPont and saved as much money as I could, and then my brother and I started Morrisound and intentionally moved back to Tampa to do it. Because I felt like there was a wealth of talent here in the Tampa Bay area. And I felt so much about that in the late 80s, a friend of mine with the Hillsborough County Arts Council, Lynn Norton, and I started the Southeastern Music Conference, and for 6 years we showcased a couple of hundred bands over a 2-night span in venues all across downtown Tampa. We had dozens of record company people and publishers coming to see these bands and put on workshops, kind of like this one. Because I felt like the only thing holding the talent back in the Tampa Bay area was the lack of knowledge of how to take care of business. And I am a believer that you can be very creative and take care of business. And I've done everything I know to do, including being on this panel, to try to support that.
Thank you, Tom. Bob Devin Jones came from California almost 17 years ago and fell in love. One of the objects of his affection was St. Petersburg. He's an actor, a playwright, a director, an executive director, a fundraiser, a visionary, a baker, and a good friend to many, many people. Bob Devin Jones' Studio at 620 and Your Car also have a big yes on them. How come yes in St. Pete?
Well, as you said, I did fall in love, so that's a good thing to always organize yourself around. Either the love of the craft or the art or the passion of it that you have with it, or of another person. So I fell in love. And early on, I just started to really become enamored of the city. And there's many different ways you can say, oh, I'll do this. But if someone said, do you want some Haagen-Dazs ice cream? Yes. Do you want to go to Paris? Yes. I've not been asked, but if I were to be asked. Yes. I would love to go to Paris. And so that became just our motto and then our philosophy at the studio. The answer is always yes. That way you don't have to have the liminal, well, if, that Kipling if that can trip you up. If I do this, if I do this, if, then I can do this thing. Yes, we affirm that it's a good idea to go forward. Now, we have occasionally, I've been on the planet 61 years, so I have fallen on my face. And in fact, today I fell in Sarasota. The curb sort of rose up to meet me there. And, but the yes has been a very good way to organize my creative life. I've been a creative worker for at least 4 decades plus. And it's given me a lot of shelter and a lot of joy.
And other people as well.